Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, let's get with it. You never know what lessons you teach your children that stick with them. A long time ago, in a land not so far away, my brother was at Arkansas Children's Hospital. Reason, won't go into it. But him and my mother pretty much stayed there for just about a month, maybe two, because of a surgery he had. Now, next door was a little boy with his mother, and you could tell that mom had been put through the ringer. And the little boy had burns all over him. Now, we lived a good little ways away from Arkansas Children's Hospital. My father still had to take care of me and work and stuff. But this little boy and his mom, and lack of a better term, his father, lived there in Little Rock. He'd only stop by every few days, and he made a mistake. He showed up when my father was there one time. Evidently, every few days, he'd show up blind, stinking drunk. He'd start off kind of nice, and then he'd get real belligerent. Turns out the little boy's there because he got burned over most of his body. Because he didn't quite do what Daddy said, and the woman wouldn't press charges. The kid was too afraid, and evidently this was an ongoing thing. The woman, tearfully, when the man left, confided in my mother what had happened, what had occurred, and she just didn't know what to do. She couldn't do anything. And my mother, told my father. And I'm happy to tell this story because the statute of limitations is long gone. This is where I learned sometimes the right thing ain't the legal thing. But you got to be willing to stand up for your convictions. Now, with that being said, this was on a weekend when this occurred, and several of the fathers from little kids were there. And these kids were pretty much there kind of long term, a month, couple of weeks. And they got a plan together. See, this father, this jerk, showed up just about every weekend. So dads got together and they got them a plan. The following weekend, jerk shows back up. And he does his normal thing. He starts off kind of nice and then starts screaming and hollering. Now, other dads are out in the hall and they're waiting on this fella. See, what the other dads had done is they had all gone to the liquor store and they'd all bought little pints to put in their back pockets of whiskey, tequila, vodka. Nobody knew what this guy drank, so they made sure they had a little bit of everything. They got around, the kid, when the dad walked out, he was always trying to get people on his side and ran his mouth and stuff. And, brat kid just didn't know what he's put me through. The cops always talking to me. So all these dads, there's about 5 or 6 of them. Oh, screw that kid, man. Hey, man, we got a bottle. Why don't we go out the back door and we go downstairs and we have a drink? Well, this alcoholic SOB went with it. This is where the story changes a little bit. They went downstairs. I'm sure they let him get a couple of drinks in. Then they gave him what I call an attitude adjustment. Hank Williams Jr. made a song about attitude adjustment. Well, that's exactly what they gave this drunk SOB. Now, 6-1 ain't fair odds, but a grown man against a little boy and a can of gasoline and a lit cigarette, ain't fair odds either. So they thought they'd even it up a bit. And they did. They tore his happy little ass up. About 30 minutes later, the dads come back upstairs, and the nurses had a pretty good idea. There was a bunch of nice nurses on the floor, and they had a pretty good idea of what was going on and what had happened. And they just quietly took the dads into a different empty room, and they patched up. All of a sudden, all the dads had some bandages on their knees and were touched up and kind of fixed. And then the nurses suggested while they were there, all their kids were very ill, and they didn't want to get them contaminated. So they all put on these colored or black rubber gloves for protection from germs, at least while they were there. All the dads got caught what was being laid down. They did it. About an hour later, cops showed up. It seems that somebody found a fella that regularly visited one of the clients up there, the little boy that got burned, and he had been beaten within an inch of his life. They even had a hard time identifying him. He had been beaten so bad, but he was alive, and he was still able to walk. Maybe not very well. And they asked if anybody knew what was going on. They looked around. They saw everybody. Somebody had a couple of bandages, and there was a lot of rubber gloves. Well, we don't see any yet. Cops knew what was going on. They weren't stupid. They acknowledged it was a different time, different era, and cops had a little bit more leeway back then, and this is one of them good times. And they said, well, we don't see or understand or know anything. What's going on? While the dads were giving this fella an attitude adjustment, they told him basically leave this woman, leave this kid, and if they ever found him anywhere near them again or in that house, he wouldn't make it the next time to the ER. I asked my father about this, and he goes, Dad, what if the cops decided to press and arrested you? Son, sometimes you got to be willing to go to jail to do what's right. What he's doing to that woman, people can't help. She's not really helping herself. So we helped him understand the error of his ways. Them dads got together on the next weekend. They stopped by to see the little boy and their kids and stuff, and they saw the woman, and they went over to his house, make sure that fella was gone. They also mowed the yard, cleaned the house up. There's 6, 7 grown men out there cleaning the house, scrubbing the house. Some of the moms even took some time, went over there. They baked some food because the little boy was about to go home. And they put it in the refrigerator, stocked them up, toilet paper, food, rice, beans, meat, whatnot. Mowed the yard, fixed a few things around the house that need to be fixed, and left the envelope laying on the kitchen table. Made sure every bit of his stuff was gone. And a couple of them that lived in Little Rock left her phone numbers in case she needed some help. Now, what they did, was it legal? Not by the letter of the law. But was it right? Damn right it was. And I took my sense of ethics and morals from that situation to the point I ran into a situation like that a few years later. Some guy was whooping the snot out of a girl at a mall, and I walked up on him, told him, if you want to fight somebody, how about you pick me? He made the dumb mistake. He took a swing, and I threw him through a plate glass window of one of the stores, and I got banned from that mall for the rest of my life. Funny thing was, 5 years later, I own my own business in that mall. They tend to forget about stuff like that. I bought that girl a ticket back home, put her on a bus. I don't think that guy raised his hand to a girl too often after that. My daddy gave me a sense of morals and purpose, and I thank him for it every day. Peace, love, and nacho grease. And remember, fat bottom girls make the world go round.